Oh my god, you wrote 4 more chapters. And lo, when Jay heard about the master's devotion to Carl, she was a bit reserved, and she said unto Carl, "Is that not a bit much?" Carl shrugged and said unto her, "Lo, I cannot stop what the script is written, and I cannot help the things that I inspire." Did she actually message me about that? No, she did not. Oh, good. Oyster's capture card arrived yesterday. Nice. Nice. Alright. Notifications. Mentions. None. Kotaku. Not moving fast enough for my taste, so I have to do it myself. Ah! I see! So... oh. Ooh. Ah. E. Ooh. This is funny. Hold on. This is already in the right crop. So, what's happening right now is that article that they wrote on the 10th about Metroid Dread running great on Switch emulators was apparently copyright struck. I don't know if it was by a DMCA, but they definitely disputed ownership of the video. And it was removed from the article. I don't see anybody bitching about it in large form. And of course, there's people like this doing this, and this is like very stupid. Like it's very dumb, because realistically, right now, what we're talking about here is 2 cases of what's about to happen. We have an issue of, haha, look, the company is getting butt fucked. And then we have a case of, come on guys, support your developers. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say that to say this specifically. You probably shouldn't pirate modern games that are currently within the first 6 months of its release. I'm throwing up an arbitrary number there, okay? But 2, this is not news. This shit right here. This shit right here, this is not news. How many times have we watched Kotaku, Polygon, Rock Paper Shotgun, Destructoid, all of the rigmarole roles of all the fucking Waypoint websites that all copy the same tactics that tried to metagame systems, like how Rock Paper Shotgun tried to metagame the ability to spam their articles and have them listed as sources on Steam until Steam took away that function and they lost all that free revenue and news aggregation. How many articles have we seen of them writing dog shit where they report on rumors and those rumors are not confirmed? How many cases and examples have we seen of just Kotaku writers in general, and especially the ones that were groomed by Drazen Schreier, just being the most unrepentant pieces of dog shit, writing the most dumbass articles? This is not outside the news of that. That is them trying to create news of nothing. That's what this article was. Them getting copy struck by Nintendo because they basically just said the same shit that they've always done whenever there's been a fan game, whenever there's been some spin-off of something, some project that's been in the works, and they try to spread news about it to try and hype up news so they can get clicks on the article. That is the same shit as before with their fucking dumbass take about Strangers in Paradise, where the author chooses to go about how the character looks to him and how it's supposed to look like a dirtbag guy that his sister used to date. The same bruh energy, the exact same who even fucking asked. But it's funny, because this means that Nintendo is fully aware of how Kotaku is making their game look, and what probably pissed them off wasn't, there are players that are playing the game on PC. It was emulators. It was emulator that did it. Because the last time they were in the news for emulation was when they suspended and attacked, I think it was coolroms.com, or maybe it was Nintendo Emulation World, and made every single Nintendo-based game no longer available for piracy on most mainstream websites, of which that was one of them. It's not a shocker. And I say that to say to you, at no point in time do you need to hand it to Nintendo. They're just protecting their copyright. But in this instance, they're 1000% valid to do so. Because it's bad press for a game that they just released. And worst of all, when was the last time we had a Metroid game? Do you know what you know what they're gonna say to themselves when they hear, oh, gamers are pirating this? That's what prompted the reaction. And I can promise you, if they haven't bitched about it yet, somebody will. But I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. Here we have the update. An earlier version of this story was understood by many readers to be a direct suggestion to illegally download this just-released game. We regret this interpretation. Kotaku believes emulation is a vital part of the world of gaming, not at least when it comes to gaming preservation, while not directly encouraging anyone to break the law and downloading games that they have not purchased. We believe our readers are intelligent adults capable of making such choices for themselves, independently of us. That's a fucking lie. That's a fucking lie. That is a fucking lie. Because here's this whole ass tweet from Nick Marcells and Corey Balrog, one of the writers, basically upvoting that fucking clip that we've been seeing around, with somebody bitching and whining about Metroid Dread compared to God of War 4. And this trend is also equally dog shit. Because this trend doesn't actually do anything, right? We're in current year, +8, going on +9. 9 years since the Goober Gay. And y'all are still trying to try for console wars? Bro, why can't I play all the games on PC to begin with anyways? Outside of Nintendo games. Why are you trying to get me to buy your fucking shitty-ass console that has no games to buy? It's $120 worth of game. Play the games you want to play. Stop bitching about shit that shouldn't be bitched about. Y'all tiresome. Y'all effervescently tiresome. Boop. And I'm gonna highlight that. And I'll let them know to clip that shit so I can post it tomorrow. I'm going in the wrong ass direction. I'm going in the wrong ass direction. 3 games, I think. Explicitly only 3 games. Because everything else is a fucking port from the PS4. And then there was an article the other day where the Sony creators like, oh my god, I can't believe we have a lack of faith in our products. What could have done this? I don't know. What could have done it? Guess you're gonna have to whip that one out and figure it out. The Mystery Mouse Tool. I'd say shame, but Sony hasn't had shame for years. Oh no, that was they dead ass said that shit. They said that shit with their whole ass chest. Whole ass chest. I don't know why we're not having more victory and more sales with our system. Also, why the fuck did you not get zapped together? Does it keep the door? No, it does not keep the floor. It does not keep the floor up. See, this area is much easier to traverse in third person because you can actually see where you're going. Why? Why? wonder what the walking corpse drops. Perfect berry. And a little herb. Nice crit. Chunk of iron. I wouldn't say that's a possibility. If I were a person who was dealing with these companies, I would have blacklisted them a very long while ago. Because at the end of the day, the reason why these places are shit isn't because the publication is shit. It's because the people in the publication are shit. Nintendo's ninjas took down Kotaku's video of Metroid Dread playing at 4K on copyright grounds. Second set of Larva's gloves. Realistically right now, as far as I'm concerned, the big winner in every single generation is going to be the PC always. Because the gimmicks that come with trying to hold out for a marketplace to pump up artificial value inside of the value of consoles is deliberately rooted inside the concept that you believe that the consoles are going to be more valuable than anything else. Because eventually, every single game is going to come to the console. Because you'd be retarded to ignore that market worth of value. Like, I put this much money into it. I wanted to have the ability to play on it. The video's in the whispers. Okay. I wanted to look into it. I wanted to have the fucking product. I wanted to have the ability to view the product. Put in all this time, put in all this interest, and you're telling me I'm gonna sit here and watch you fuck up? What kind of piece of shit is that, huh? Garbage. Garbage is what it is. I don't see my whispers. Unless it's just posted here. No, you have not whispered it to me yet. I'm not looking at my Discord whispers and I don't see it there either. Twitch whispers.
Hey folks.
Video from Nintendo Prime. Lovely. Boop, bop, bing, bop, bada boom. Wrong one. Bada boom. Pow.
So we have an update today about a video that I made over the weekend, where I mentioned, well, the title was pretty self-explanatory. Kotaku is going to be pissed, or Nintendo is going to be pissed at Kotaku, I guess is the way to phrase it. And some people said that I was a little too harsh, right? Kotaku has the right to post anything they want. It dealt with emulation, it dealt with piracy, it dealt with, people are saying Kotaku never said certain things. And I pointed out various ways in that article that Nintendo was not going to take kindly to what Kotaku was doing, but I made sure to never say in that video that Kotaku doesn't have the right to make this type of content. I do think it's kind of a stupid move for a company that does get review copies of games from Nintendo, does have direct contact with Nintendo, and, got to Switch OLED early and everything in between. Kotaku is I know some people laugh at it, but they are technically a professional video game journalism website.
The problem with that is that the issue that you're explaining there is the downside of access journalism. That's the downside there. And that's something that is a consequence of the business, because it should not be about access journalism. I don't need you to give me a review copy of the game in order for me to be able to review your game. It just so happens to be a nice side benefit of having clout and having swag that I can be able to say, hey, give me a fucking review, and so I can, you know, because the entire idea about access journalism isn't just, well, I got the game first, so I put out the review first. Yes, that's a factor of business, especially when it comes to getting it right and getting it right first. But then the problem becomes, well, I'm gonna kiss your ass, so continue giving me free shit because I just want to kiss your ass, so you give me free shit. It's a cycle that leads to the propensity of what we're already dealing with. Yes, Kotaku can make that shit, but it's kind of like sitting down and listening to Richard Lewis and Thorin break down why something like the Score Esports is dog shit, because they do the exact same thing. They just happen to have the money, and they happen to have the power, and they happen to have the protection that comes with being large, so they can be able to game the system as YouTube allows them, and as the platforms allow them. It's not a bad thing to do, so kudos for you to recognizing that it is but it's a little bit more than that. And at the same time, it's because of this cycle of people going to these websites because, well, oh, I know the name of Kotaku, so that means I should listen to them, right? No, these motherfuckers cannot play the game. Because we all saw the fucking tweet. We all saw the fucking article of them bitching about, no, Metroid Dread would only be successfully played by the skillful. Only if you properly press your buttons. And it was the same situation again. Where a dude wasn't able to climb because he didn't press the button long enough to get his high jump. It's the same shit again. We have returned right back to the same problem that we had with Cuphead. It's amazing!
And so, obviously, when you are in certain positions, sometimes you need to reserve certain conversations for different places and different avenues. Like, if they want to talk about this in a general podcast, I don't think anyone would care, but a full article on it is a little bit of a different story. And Kotaku has known for their controversies over the years. In fact, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's how they get their clicks. I don't know. But
I'm gonna actually jump on that. The problem isn't that they talked about it on a podcast where they talked about it on an article. The problem is that Kotaku constantly tries to run on top of every story to try to get the story first, but never actually telling the truth about the story. Why, for example, why would I care about the opinion of Nathan Grayson when it comes to how his favorite e-girl, Amaranth, is getting punished for her clout-chasing behavior when he is part of the reason why the Vietnam Gamer War happened and has never fucking stopped? Seems very stupid that I'd go to the person who's the direct cause of the problem to tell me about the problem. It's like going to a war criminal and saying, okay, Mr. Truman, tell me where you hid the bodies. And he's like, absolutely, I'll tell you where I hid every single body that I'm responsible for a war crime of. Also, I'm going to bring along Henry Kissinger, and look, Benito Mussolini! We're going to tell you everything! Mr. Assassin, tell me who your assassination target is! Absolutely! Would you like to see the gun I was going to use to do it? Dumb! It's dumb! Not you're dumb. They're dumb. But that's how the business works now.
what's interesting about this article is that obviously I mentioned that Nintendo was going to be pissed, and people
also, if they actually stopped being clout chasers and put their fucking obvious op-eds as op-eds, and they made the clear differential between this is what we experienced, this is what's in the game, and you can see this coverage because we did it live on our YouTube page or on our Twitch page at www.twitch.tv/Kotaku, and then had an article, either video or written format of, okay, here's the opinion of the person who played it. If you separated them out and gave the facts and then the opinion, you wouldn't be in this situation. But y'all can't do that! Because then you wouldn't get the hate clicks.
Maybe Nintendo wasn't going to care, or they just wanted to use this as a virtue signal, the fact that Nintendo doesn't, support their older games and stuff like that. Even though this technically was about pirating Metroid Dread, it really wasn't about the old games. Doesn't really matter. It is what it is. I think Kotaku has the right to make any article they want. I just think if you are a company that's getting review copies of games, there are certain standards that you probably should adhere to. And I know you might feel like that's censorship. I feel like it's not really censorship, it's just respect.
No, that's censorship. I'm censoring my opinion, and I'm not saying what I have to because I want to maintain my access to journalism. That's censorship.
If a company's going to give you access to products early, I'm not saying that you alter your opinion of those products, but out of respect, you should not push getting those products illegally, at least.
Pushing to get a product illegally is not what they did. They did not suggest that people pirate. If what they did was that they just took somebody's video of somebody who had already pirated and said, hey guys, look what the game looks like in 4K, that's not piracy. That's not them advocating for piracy either. It's just that they are in a position where they are looked at by millions of people. So by not saying, hey, and by the way, don't pirate the game. This is just what we saw that a pirate did. That's why they're getting butt-fucked. That's the actual reality of why they're getting butt-fucked. When I tell people, listen, I make emulation shit, I'm not telling them to steal the entire Nintendo library. But what I am telling them is that I'm not going to pay you $100 fucking dollars. Matter of fact, I posted this fucking link before. Let me go find it. Wonderful opportunity. I'm not going to pay extreme, outrageous prices for an EverDrive 64 when I know that I can be able to deliver it exactly from someone without having to go through Amazon to do it. There's no reason for me to have to do that, even though technically I'm paying for the feature that comes with that. Especially when I work on teams where we develop this shit for free. Namely PCSX and PCSX2. Why would I pay that money? Especially if I can do it free. In the case of the EverDrive 64, it's one of the legal ways for you to own the copy of the game, because you need to access multiple different versions. But unfortunately, it is what it is. As far as it comes with the fucking money that comes with having to pay to support the official releases, I don't feel like paying $100 for a GameCube version of Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Or the fact that a proper original copy of GameCube Legend of Zelda Wind Waker on release is $80. Or that Pokemon Coliseum in an open case is $700. That's fucking mental. That's the reality of what causes people to do piracy. This is why I say, probably don't steal a game that was just released. Because these games are old. I can emulate that shit right now like I was already. And it cost me $0.00. It cost me time, but that's it. But if I wanted to legally have it for my GameCube, and then attach it to my computer so I could put it on stream, that's the cost. That's not a tenable cost. Nintendo can do better than that. They can do way better than that. Realistically, it's just the legality of doing either a release or a special bundle selection. They did it with Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and packaging the version of Legend of Zelda normal Ocarina of Time and Master Quest inside the package. But that was for a special pre-order bonus. Imagine if y'all did that again, but you made it either a download-only version, or you just literally just did all this effort to put together a legacy version of Zelda. Like Legacy 2D, Legacy 3D. For all the consoles that have been up till since then, keep Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening as it is, because you've already made the Switch port, so you don't have to do that one again. You could, if you want to keep it in the original GBA graphics, but do we really give a fuck about Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX? Considering it's the same fucking game? All that shit is something that can be done by the company. And until the company does that, all you can really do is point at this and say, hey man, isn't this fucking ass? This is fucking ass, right? It's ass.
That's just my opinion. But I mentioned Nintendo's going to get mad, and we have an update today. Well, Nintendo's mad. We don't know if they've been officially blacklisted, but we do have a step in that direction, and I'll explain that after I remind you we are giving away 3 copies of Metroid Dread. To enter for now, you just need to be subscribed. I will have some other things at the end of the week, but to win any of our giveaways, you have to be subscribed. So it's kind of just a general rule of thumb. So yeah, we'll be giving away 3 copies of this in what we're calling Dread Poker. Alright, so Kotaku's article is still up, and they did edit it, and they took out all of the offending content that we talked about last time. They edited it over the weekend, so all the offending content that was an issue is gone. They did present an update, of course, saying an earlier version of the story was understood by many readers to be a direct suggestion to illegally download this just release game. We regret this interpretation. It's funny, they're not apologizing for what they said, they're apologizing for how people interpreted what they said. Don't make what you said.
So they're going with Schrodinger's asshole. And Schrodinger's tweet. That's bitch made.
So obviously interpreted in that direction is my kind of response to that, but it is what it is. So Kotaku believes emulation is a vital part of the world of gaming, not least when it comes to game preservation, even though that's not what this was about. While not directly encouraging anyone to break the law and download games they have not purchased. We believe our readers are intelligent adults capable of making such choices for themselves independently of us. Now we're not going to get into all the arguments about if you buy a game, if you can legally then download a ROM. It's actually illegal for that ROM to even be available to download in the first place, so we're not going to do that. You're not.
No, it's not actually. The original rules of emulation was that a emulated ROM could be downloaded and kept for as long as the person who flash dumped it owned the original content. Because that's what a ROM is. It is a flash dump of all of the data that is on the cartridge or the disc, being ripped out, put onto a burn flash, and then being flashed into a system where they can then either be ran as an ISO for things that are disc-based, or for things that are cartridge-based, dumping the bin, and then being able to copy the entire game and its processes in a proper emulation one-to-one manner by using an official BIOS. Because the official BIOS is what makes it legal. Because it's the exact way that game development is supposed to be fucking done. That's the caveat there. What makes it illegal is not having the BIOS, and then trying to brick the game, and then trying to resell that. Having it available, but not owning the game, actually puts it on a timer, where what has to happen then is that after owning it for 24 hours, you delete it, which is technically rental standards. It's like going to Blockbuster, but the internet. I buy the game, or I rent the game, but I don't have the proper ownership of the game. I don't own the physical copy, and I can't make a flash dump of it for my own purposes, alone by myself, because if I have a copy of a copy that I don't give to anyone, I'm not making you lose money, and I'm also not breaking the fucking law. If I were to then give that to someone else, that would be where you would go for a breach. And that's where you would start censoring things, because that's what technically would make the emulation bad. Because technically, you have all these games out here and these resources that exist as parts of all of these libraries, even as old as the fucking Atari, and the Amiga, and the Game Gear. All of these things that have existed since the arcade tops and the arcade cases. Even for the arcade cases themselves. The arcade variations of these things. And all the controllers and all the mechanics. There is a legitimate reason to do that. Do you know how expensive it is to fucking flash dump an arcade top? Do you know how expensive it is to find these old systems and find these old games and make them fucking function so that you can get a proper fucking copy of its internal system guts so you can then make an emulation program to function like that? You can go look up some emulation sites right fucking now and just go through the libraries of games that have been acquired. Or you can go to at least in the case and example of PlayStation 2, you can go to the compatibility list that we have for PCSX2 and look at every single game that has been made compatible. That list is now pushing at 99.8% compatibility, with only a few games being completely unplayable or just being able to be kind of playable with menu issues. That was through hard work, dedication, and finding the shit. We had to go out and buy the game to dump. That's money! And you're going to tell people, oh, no, it's fully illegal for you to do that. No! It's only based on how the people who released the content view it. In terms of companies like Acid Wizard Games, the makers of Darkwood, who put the whole ass full game on fucking Pirate Bay themselves because they wanted people to play the game, that went to them winning the power of word of mouth. For the owner of Just Beats and Shapes, they specifically put in a piracy screen where they said, listen, bro, if you ain't got money, give me word of mouth. You're already playing a game, just show people how much fun you're having while doing it. And we're good. I remember. Between these two examples, and then the example that we have of Darkest Dungeon, where the owners of it didn't take down any of the older versions of it, they just kept making newer shit with the DLC. This leads you to understand that the problem is that the mega corporation's view of piracy and the everyday consumer's view of piracy are two different congruent realities that do not exist in the same subspace. Because the consumer just wants to play the game, and the company wants to make money by all means necessary, even by fucking over the consumer. And the consumer sees how the company behaves and says, no thank you, I'm gonna go over here now. Nintendo's probably the worst case example of them doing this on a regular basis, but they're not the only ones that do this. They're just the ones that are the most aggressive about it because they are like this. Because how many times have they seen their fucking copyrights be stolen by a Western company and be used for the purposes of making quick bucks? Too many fucking times. That's not on them, that's on you, the creative industry that wrote about them. Because every single game that gets brought to the attention of Nintendo, whether it be a fan game or it be an actual original developed product that just happens to be within the purview of potentially even being copyright, if not actually copyright, because it's inspired by something, is the immediate chance for them to clamp down and send a cease and desist. And that's on them for poisoning the well. Now they're just suffering the interaction because they've forgotten that that's how it is. They think the gamers are going to come to protect them. And the gamers are not. Individuals might, but not an entire buying base. We don't like y'all. Y'all can't sit with us. Fuck you. It's as simple as that. There is no other explanation. And the fact that people don't know that rule about emulation is because not a lot of people actually fucking emulate. Don't speak on shit you don't know about. That's not to say you can't talk about it, but don't say lies. Because the lying is the part that fucks you. Every time you lie, people are going to say, actually, no, here's the actual rules, here it was changed. And you know why it was changed? You know how recently it was fucked as since of then? The last bill before the coup. The last fucking bill that was put on the Senate floor that involved bullshit, that involved live streaming formats, and also how people would be progressed if they were in violation of illegal streaming contacts. That's what did it. A lot of the time, it was really much an unenforced policy that was always a rule in the book, but was left unenforced because of the equilibrium it brought to the industry and buying power as a whole. But then, y'all thought, well, everybody's trapped indoors, so let's try to squeeze the fucking knots a little bit, and now you're reaping the benefit of what that came with. Negative press. Maybe don't fuck with people like that.
Not allowed to distribute ROMs. That being said, I want to talk about something that happened. Because the article's still up, so like, who cares, right? Nintendo obviously didn't do anything, except they did, because they forced something that they can control. So I've been a Nintendo YouTuber for, I don't know, at least 4 years now. I've been making videos on Zelda for maybe 8 years, but, you know, doing this whole Nintendo Prime thing for about 4 years, 4.5 years. And the thing is, I learned a lot over these years, because when I first started doing this towards the beginning of the Switch era, Nintendo had very different YouTube policies than they do today. Technically, according to the letter of the law, showing any gameplay or any trailers where the trailers are not being criticized. Like, you can review a trailer, but just tossing a trailer in the background of a video when you're doing a news report, you know, putting gameplay of a game in there, using music from these games, technically, according to the letter of the law, this is all illegal. And Nintendo was one of the few companies out there enforcing that policy. They would basically go on YouTube.
It was not that it was illegal, it was that it was frowned upon. It's illegal in Japan. We all remember. Who remembers the dumbass rules for streaming that they had for Persona 5? Because even with this game, even with Dragon Quest S, hold on, I'm gonna evac from the dungeon right now. I'm gonna put it on screen so that when motherfuckers cry about it, they can't lie. Even when you're playing Dragon Quest S, there is a notice that you get on every single game that will tell you this game has rules based on how it can be done. And even in your screenshots, you'll see all of those pieces of information at the bottom that have the copyright and trademark in there. That is specifically because of Japan's reaction to piracy and how they feel about piracy as a whole. They don't like it. And they don't like it because that's how often they've been abused. It's so fucking bad that for those of us who remember when I used to stream on the other backup channel that used to exist for the VODs, for the podcast, and for hanging out on community nights, which kind of technically have been discontinued because we're not all able to be together anymore. When I was showing Beetleborgs, a copy strike that I got from Toei struck it on the purposes of it being Toei content. But it wasn't because I was watching the original. It was because as the property existed in terms of just Saban brands couldn't reinforce the copyright because technically they don't have the ability to. So the company did. It's so bad. It's so bad. Trying to get back out of the fucking menu. Game, why won't you let me out? You won't let me out? Just close the fucking software. Come on, Nintendo. Right here. Video streaming and distribution. Copyrighted work. All of this shit. And all of this. Specifically, this line right here. Streaming of this game is permitted only in non-commercial context, but using streams of the game primarily to provide or listen to the music itself, even in such non-commercial context, is wrong. This basically is a line that says, you can play the game on stream, and you can listen to the fucking music while you're playing the game, but you cannot sit here and just turn on the screen and basically allow people to listen to the music free, because they care that much about the goddamn music and their soundtracks. You could probably even listen to it officially on the channels. You could probably find some channel on YouTube that will let you listen to the music as a whole with the entirety of the OST. They do this with everything in Japan. Because they got whole audio disc books of unreleased songs that don't hit the States. Because of rules like this. But you expect me to believe this bullshit? Nah! Hard nah! Tallest of cap! And it's been like that since the PS2 era. Because they did that with Final Fantasy X. Like, there were multiple copies of audio discs that were not released. And one of those ones, that was the Eternal Calm audio disc. Which is what happens after you beat the game. And you defeat Sin. And you transition from the world of Final Fantasy X to X-2. Like, there's whole-ass soundtracks. They did that a lot with Kingdom Hearts, actually. It's probably the first place anybody ever heard the soundtrack for Vector to the Heavens. Which the first time actually, not the only time. The first time you actually hear that track is in 256 Days Over 2. Because it's the last boss battle versus Shion, when she dons his Sora-esque looking armor. That's supposed to be a mimic of the Keyblade Master armor. And it's painful. Because imagine how much content you're missing out on because of policies like that. But that's an internal company policy because of how Western journalism is dog shit. Moving on.
And if you had gameplay clips, trailer clips, or Nintendo music, they would copyright strike your videos, or at least take them down if they didn't give you a strike. So they do a copyright takedown instead of a copyright strike. This was a very rough time to be a Nintendo YouTuber, because you had to talk about games without really showing them. Yeah, not very fun. Nintendo then implemented a whitelist a little bit during the Wii U era, and that whitelist wasn't exactly great. There were a lot of games left off, and it wasn't a good time. You had to be like a Nintendo ambassador or Nintendo something or other. I can't remember. Even new stuff, even then, it was only whitelist available, so you could use. It was just,
you had to be Nintendo ambassador, and they only allowed you to show certain parts of the game up till that point, because that was the point with Persona 5 and Persona 4.
Not a good time to be a Nintendo.
There was a specific cutoff point of the game where past a certain date of gameplay, I think it was the 3rd of the 17th, that it would just be blocked, or was it the 3rd of the 18th? I'm assuming it was before the first boss battle, before the first Phantom.
Nintendo YouTuber, especially if you were someone who cared about money, because if you're obviously making a living off YouTube and suddenly Nintendo yanks your ability to make money on covering Nintendo content, if you show the content, it's a bit of a problem. But here's the thing, Nintendo did eventually, around 2017, 2018, change that policy. They now allow us to freely use any trailers, they allow us to use any video game music so long as it's video game music. There is a few exceptions. Jump Up Superstar, as an example, was actually produced by a major music company, and they refused to release that copyright to gamers to use, so any remix or any use of Jump Up Superstar will be copyright claimed. But if it's a song that was made, by Nintendo's internal symphonies and all that stuff, you can use it freely in videos, you can use their trailers, you can use everything. Pokemon games are a little different because the Pokemon company has different policies, and they're a lot stricter. Pokemon YouTubers will know all about this. But in general, Metroid Dread, we can do whatever we want. Virtual 2, we can do whatever we want. We can show as much gameplay as we want. I can have commentary, I can not have commentary. Doesn't matter. Nintendo just lets us really use it. In fact, it's so actually good for Nintendo. You can emulate the games, emulate them in 4K, like Breath of the Wild, emulate it in 4K, show it running at 60 FPS, sometimes even higher. You can throw mods in it, and you can put all of this stuff right here on YouTube. They will not stop you, and they do not care. Usually. In Kotaku's article, they had a video clip that they themselves put up on YouTube. This video clip was showing the game running on PC in 4K, showing Metroid Dread running in 4K. Again, Nintendo doesn't care. In fact, Nintendo only takes down videos like this when they appear before a game comes out, because clearly they're either breaking NDA or they have an illegal copy of the game. So Nintendo will take out videos before release, but once release happens, emulation, they don't really do anything about it. They just let you throw it up there because, hey, it could be illegal, right? And they can't prove that you illegally obtained the game. So again, they'll just let it go. But this Kotaku article got a lot of attention, and some people might point to my video, but it's not just my video, right? There was actually a lot of attention on Twitter and several other YouTubers and news outlets that talked about this, that said, you know what, it's kind of a bad look for Kotaku, who was sent stuff from Nintendo, to then turn around and talk openly about pirating a Nintendo game that just came out. This wasn't talking about pirating N64 games compared to Nintendo's N64 Online service. This was talking about a brand new just released game within 24 hours of its release date, and how amazing it is on some other platform, and that, hey, you should just go download it, or like, hey, you only need a PC, you don't need to buy the game, you don't need a Switch, you don't need it, just go have a PC and go enjoy it in 4K for free. It wasn't said in so little words, but it wasn't a good look. While Nintendo's ninjas are they're real. They're very real. We've heard enough stories about not only them doing stuff online, but doing stuff in person, to recognize that Nintendo and their lawyers and their team behind the scenes takes this stuff very seriously. Now, we don't have any evidence that Kotaku itself has been blacklisted, which is something we said was a possibility. For those who don't know what blacklisted means, basically means Nintendo stops talking to us. They stop responding to questions, they stop allowing interviews to be happening, and obviously, more importantly, they stop sending you early copies of games and consoles. That obviously can affect Kotaku's bottom line, because having this early access and having the ability to do interviews does drive viewers. I can speak that for myself. I was able to somehow get access to a Switch OLED even before the media did, and yeah, we had a little bit of increased viewership on those Switch OLED videos because not many of us had one that early. So yes, early access absolutely can help you with viewership. So having that early access is even more important today when you're competing against non-traditional media, such as YouTubers like myself. I don't get early access to things usually, so them having early access gives them a benefit to do coverage that I can't do. You guys saw what I did with Switch OLED. I actually would like to do that kind of coverage of games and consoles moving forward. I'm just not afforded the access to do it. But here's the thing. While Nintendo is not going to be able to legally make that article go away, they can request Kotaku, but there's nothing they can legally do, because Kotaku is free to talk about whatever the hell they want to talk about. Nintendo can't do anything about the freedom of press. But Nintendo did do something that they haven't been doing for years. They took out their video showing the game running on PC in 4K, despite the fact that they don't do this, and there's other videos of it running in 4K on YouTube Nintendo hasn't touched. They only touched Kotaku. And here's what it says. Video unavailable. This video contains content from Nintendo, who has blocked it on copyright grounds. And good luck with Kotaku trying to fight against that, because technically Nintendo's always had the legal right to take out videos, and they could pick and choose any video they want to take out, and they chose specifically to take out Kotaku's video talking about and showing the game running in 4K on PC. Now, they can't take out the article because of freedom of press, but the video itself shows gameplay of their game, so they can take it out. Again, this is a very interesting sign, because Nintendo didn't do this really until late yesterday, right? This wasn't something they did over the weekend. Nintendo waited until it was business week, and they said, oh yeah, Kotaku. Maybe they even made Kotaku request to take it down themselves, and Kotaku said no, and then Nintendo said, screw it, we're going to take it out. It's a very interesting thing. And some people are going to say, boo on Nintendo, of course. Screw you, Nintendo. Why are you flexing your muscles like this? But the bottom line is, there is sort of an unwritten agreement between companies that send you products, especially early access to products, and the people covering them. Now look, Nintendo absolutely 100% cannot and should not be influencing reviews and impressions of products, and people sometimes think if you're sent a product early that already can influence, and there's not really any evidence of that per se, although I'm not going to say some people aren't more likely to say nice things. Like, you know, if I got Metroid Drive early, would people suddenly think my impressions of Metroid Drive don't come out until either today or tomorrow, are going to be tainted? Maybe. They probably already think that just because Nintendo's YouTube channel name. The thing is, you can't do much about that, but there is like this unwritten expectation where you're not going to promote people do illegal things with the game so close to the game out. Now, if they had talked about, you know, playing this a year from now, 2 years from now, if Nintendo refuses to drop prices and the sales appear to be really low, and they talk about that kind of stuff, maybe Nintendo just turns the other cheek and moves on. They have other big games coming out that they can worry about. But the thing is, this is a critically acclaimed masterpiece. It is right up there to be potentially game of the year. It was less than 24 hours later, and Kotaku was telling you how awesome it runs on PC, which already was probably going to irk Nintendo, and then openly talked about piracy in relation to Metroid Dread. So, like, and by the way, they talked about it in a way that made it sound like it's okay to pirate it. I know their updated clarifications, we are not advocating for that, but they are. At the same time, they even mention how much they support, you know, emulation for the purpose of preservation, which I gotta say something about this. This is just my personal take. Preservation doesn't necessarily mean get to play whenever you feel like. Game preservation is just the idea that a game is never gone forever. So it's where you...
No. No. That is the opposite of game preservation. Because if it's the idea that games shouldn't be gone forever, then you have to understand that's the exact reason why games as a service continues to be a model that is abused for the purposes of outletting people's money. Because technically, that means every single game that has ever been released, that was ever multiplayer, should always have a server. And we know that's not a goddamn fact! In fact, if you look up and you look for a Spore content video, if I can find it here. I don't know if I still have it in my mentions, because it was a specific game talking about how Spore yes, right here. How corporate greed sabotaged Spore's success from subjectively. How he talks about how he was one of the first people who actually played actively inside of the game, and he watched not only Spore itself get fucked over by EA, but also how the entirety of all the spin-off shit just died because they abused the corporate greed so fucking much that the entire franchise became stillborn. All the spin-offs were stillborn, the game itself became stillborn, because why the fuck were you going to pay all this shit for all these things to begin with in the first goddamn place? Now, by this logic, that means, especially when it comes to the way that product IDs and the ability to activate those keys are used, because of the way that you used to do it before, it's kind of like what happens with Diablo 2's disc, right? Especially with those of us who were cracked out enough to play Diablo 2 Resurrected, or who were like me and had to give fucking Blizzard $20 of my money just so I could go fucking play Path of Diablo before I upgraded my computer. I have to give you money for a key for the game, right? That does not guarantee that if I were to try to play the multiplayer server, which I tried to many times, that I'm going to be able to make an account or be even able to log in, which I was not able to. And as we saw in the video that I made on my channel talking about this exact fact, when I made that video about Diablo 2, we saw with our own eyes the state of the game. And how modded it is out of control. With the concept of game preservation, it does not guarantee that I'm going to be able to have the online experience that I had in yesteryear. Because by that same logic, that means Dark Souls should not be as dead and as broken as it is now. Because y'all motherfuckers did not preserve the original copy of Dark Souls. You remastered it and you fucking broke it. And then you removed the original version from the Steam stores. From all of the digital storefronts. And then you thought that was good. Only because of pressure have other games been able to preserve their original versions and their remastered versions, but that is forever lost to us. There are so many other games on so many other consoles. Things that have multiplayer features that had online functionality, like for Ratchet and Clank. That's gone forever too. We're never getting that back. All of those games All of those systems, Phantasy Star Online's, all of the Phantasy Star Online games as a whole, especially the ones with single player and the ones with multiplayer, especially the one that was really, really big and was the biggest one right next to Final Fantasy XI on the PS2, gone forever. Those servers aren't coming back. We can't even get the data for them because we erased the master code. It's gone! It's gone! So that's a lie! That is a lie! It's not about the idea. It is about the fact that I can go on the internet, and if I can be able to be smart enough to set up a Hamachi connection and get the server to fucking run, I can get the server to fucking run. That's why games and why servers that I play on exist. It's why, for MapleStory, for example, on G100, right now, I can go and I can find the top G100 sections and look at all the top sites that exist for MapleStory. And go find all these servers running different versions of the game. That's what actual preservation looks like. Granted, a lot of it's just that some people never wanted to play the versions that they are, but we still cannot get those versions back. I can't get back the original version of Dungeon Fighter Online that was ran on Nexon because they were behind the scenes going in and fucking with it. We can't get the original version of Mabi no Gai back, but that's okay because we have Mabi Pro. And that server, as small as the number is, with 39 to 40 players, maybe 50, maybe 60 on the weekends if we're lucky, still moving strong. Because we pay out of our own fucking pocket to make it possible. Same shit with fucking, Reimagine. We pay money out of our fucking pocket to find the source code that you deleted from these games and make these goddamn MMOs run. Because we are able to fix them ourselves and update them ourselves. Because we're smarter than you. And that's just for the multiplayer games. What about the single player games that are lost to time because somebody decided to hold on to the copy of the game forever? The fucking pre-builds and original development builds that's sitting in some collection because some collector bro decided he wanted to hold it forever because it's his personal property. It's his right to do so, but damn bro, imagine what we could have. It's one of the reasons why we even have fucking Earthbound what was the fucking original version for the Mother 1 translation given to us for? Earthbound 0? It's the reason why we even had Earthbound 0 in the first place. Because we created a patch to translate the game for us. That was done by fans. If fans hadn't done that, they wouldn't have it. Same thing with Mother 3 translation. That didn't come in the form of Nintendo doing it. That came in the form of a cart. Somebody put together a fan translation from the Moon team, and they gave it to people for free. They didn't ask for anything for it, at all. That was a project that took 2 years. It's right fucking here. 2 years! 2 years! And technically, 13 years! 15 years! For the translation! Made possible by the fans. What are the fans? Because the companies aren't going to do it on their own. Because they don't see a profit margin for it. Who remembers the news? When WoW Classic. Who remembers? Who remembers?
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No. And by the way, you don't want to do that either. You think you do, but you don't. Remember when you had to
2016! That's J. Allen Brack! Right there! J. Allen, we respect the gays Brack! Telling you didn't want this shit! All of this goes under game preservation. Is it a concept and an idea that, oh, it'd be nice if I could be able to go back and play this game and remember the nostalgia? No! It is, hey bruh, you wanna go play the original version of this game? We can go do it right now! We can go do it right now, bruh! Let's go! Pick up your controller! Whip this shit out! We're doing it! We can't do it! Because of people like this! And companies like that. and behavior patterns like this. Now, it's not on you, Mr. Nintendo man. I'm gonna call you Prime. May I call you Prime? It's not your fault, Prime, that you think that. That is what happens when the face for emulation and theft is Kotaku. That is when everyday people who don't actually do piracy and emulation and preservation and don't work on playing these games and enjoying them for what they are, and instead see it as an opportunity of, how can I increase my audience size by playing this? Only ever look at it from the viewpoint of, well, it's new and I should play it because he's doing it. That's what caused that. It works out in the company's benefit because then they get to re-release the consoles and then these miniature versions that y'all have been buying up like fucking hotcakes. These fucking mini NESs and these mini Genesises. That's how they get to turn the profit on that. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point down the line we're able to get the exact same thing for the Dreamcast or the Sega Saturn. Because there's so many games lost on those systems that we can't get again. And bro, let's not even begin to talk about how that happened for the Nintendo products and for the PlayStation products, but most especially for any of the things that happen to be inside of the marketplaces in the digital format for the Nintendo 360, or excuse me, Xbox 360. Xbox 360, fucking arcade games being lost to time forever. The fact that until it was finally brought back in its new format, how we lost Scott Pilgrim the game forever. The same way. All of these things, all of those fucking ports of those games made possible for those consoles, lost to time. The entire library of the PSP and the Vita basically gonna be lost to time forever. Especially if they can log on to these fucking MMORPGs, which, in the case of the Vita, is very much a concern, because that is exactly one of the reasons why it was able to be so longevitous for 8 fucking years before it came to the West. We don't have those anymore. It's not commercially viable. It's not economically existent, would be the proper word that they use in the boardroom meetings. It's not economically viable, which means it doesn't become economically existent. Because when you have this big titan that's covering this topic that is very anti this stance and doesn't make it very clear the very, very necessary nuances that allow it to be how it is, and the mouthpieces of all the people complaining and bitching about it are all the people who only have the mind of, well, the game is hard, so it needs to change. You need to remove this so that I can play it. When that's the viewpoint, and that's the mindset, and that's the culture, this is what you get. Shame. Shame on you!
You take a game like Metroid, you put it on a modified switch, you dump the files on your computer, and then the files are, you offload those files to a cloud drive or whatever, and those files are always backed up. Remember, the legal precedent technically isn't that you can play those files. The legal precedent is that you can back them up. And a lot of this hasn't been tested in court, so who knows anything about that. And I'm not saying that emulators themselves are illegal, they're only illegal if they're using source code. Here's the thing. When you look at just the idea that, they're saying we support emulation, but then also, hey, people have the right to game preservation. Game preservation is not about playing the game. Game preservation is about the files not vanishing. And by the way,
what is the point of preserving a game that you cannot play? Look, I have a mint condition version of Adventure. We're never going to be able to plug this into a computer because it technically can't run without an emulator, but hey, the files exist. Hey, we found the source code for fucking StarCraft, bro. We could have taken this and we could have shared it amongst ourselves, but you know what they did? I'm going to give it back to Blizzard. Here, citizen, here's $150 worth of fucking gift credit in our store and a free ticket to BlizzCon 2018. Or was it 2017? I don't remember. It's not important. What is the point of preserving something that you cannot play? What's the point of playing anything old? What's the point of playing anything old at that point? What's the point of caring about the preservation so that the generations that come after us can be able to experience what we have? Probably one of the better examples is that there should always be a running server of Guns the Duel, so that you can learn exactly as a developer and be able to teach in a classroom how to turn a bug into a feature. I'm hearing such burning takes. It's not even a case of, man, this is a really shit take in terms of gaming. No, this is a bad fundamental concept. This is shit that we actually teach you in computer science games track, which is the track that I have. Imagine teaching an opening student in development that you shouldn't try to make your game last the test of time. Imagine telling somebody, just make new shit and constantly make new shit that's just regurgitations of old shit. Don't ever harken back to the old shit as long as it allows you to be able to do so. You know, they're not gonna care. Just keep making shit in the style that's being made now. Don't do anything unique.
The whole point of backing the files is so you can be able to reflash them to something and play them on the original system. It's a whole mess of stuff. Bottom line is...
And plus, the problem with the original system, with what you just said, flashing the game so you can be able to play it on a port of the original console, you do realize that unless people make their own flash carts to then install those files on to do it, what you just said was homebrew with extra steps and jurisdiction. We already have homebrewing. You don't need homebrewing with the jurisdiction of the company saying, oh, that version of the game is allowed, but that one's not. Because that's where it goes. We're already there when it comes to streaming content, specifically for platforms like Netflix. That's what they do when they shuffle around these things from region to region, and they region lock certain shows and don't allow you to watch them in the first place in the region you live in, despite it being the reason why you bought the product in the first place. That's why VPNs exist.
It has nothing to do with a readily available brand new game that you can walk into any store right now and buy a physical copy or download digitally. The whole argument of this article was about pirating Metroid Dread, and Kotaku's defense was simply, hey, we don't promote pirating games. Also, emulation is amazing. Also, by the way, this entire article is about this. It's kind of like Kotaku is realizing what they did and talking out of one cheek, and Nintendo's like, you know what? We've had enough of your bullshit, Kotaku, and we're gonna take over the video. Now, I know some people are still gonna defend Kotaku, and that's totally fine. That is okay. I will say this: Kotaku is probably one of the last journalism websites, game journalism websites on the planet that should be defended. This is just a small, minor thing in the grand scheme of things that Kotaku has done. There's been arguments in the past that have even been busted for paid reviews, so I'm not gonna go too deep down the rabbit hole here. But Kotaku has kind of sort of become, I don't know, is it like the Deadspin of like the video game world? Is it the national? I don't really know what we say about Kotaku these days. Most of the really, really good writers are long gone. Stefan Dattilo left, obviously. Jason left, Jason Schreier left. So a lot of the big names that actually would produce really good content sometimes have already been done. So it is.
I'm going to take this opportunity to say fuck Drachen Schreier, because you should at no point in time hand it to Drachen Schreier. It's not hard to make video game content, and it's not hard to make good video game content. I've already gone through it. Stop letting in trash in your industry. That's it. That's the take.
That's what it is. Nintendo's obviously not happy. I don't know if Kotaku will ever inform us if they've been blacklisted or not. I guess the time to find out is maybe when we get to like Shin Megami Tensei 5 time, and if they don't get a review copy of Shin Megami Tensei 5, because they might already have a review copy of Mario Party at this point. But if they don't get a review copy of Shin Megami Tensei 5, or they don't get a review copy of Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot, that will be very telling that Nintendo has thrown them on the shit list, which I think some people think should have been coming along. So I don't feel bad for Kotaku. Whether or not you support what they did or not is kind of irrelevant. I said Nintendo was going to be pissed, and I was right. Nintendo is clearly not happy, and is going out of their way to do things they just don't do anymore. All right, folks, I'm Nintendo Overjazz from Nintendo Prime. Hopefully this was a bit of an entertaining look at things. If it wasn't, I apologize for wasting your time. I do have another video coming later for actual news. We have some sales updates for Switch OLED and some other things to talk about, so we'll get into all of that later today. I really wanted to update the story since it does appear that Nintendo is pretty pissed, and they are doing everything they can, at least legally, to take out some of this Kotaku content. All right, folks, I will catch you guys in the next video.
Ass. 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 Ass! Also, we're at the boss. $1K points well spent. Fuck you.